It's the new year and it's a perfect time to set goals, learn new skills, and tackle those DIY projects you've been dreaming about. And I know that tools, especially power tools in home projects, can be a little bit intimidating, but I'm here to take some of that fear away for you. Today, we're gonna go over all of the essentials that you're gonna need to get started, whether you're renovating your home, you're looking to build a special project like this DIY farm table that I built a couple months ago, or if you're brand new to your DIY journey, I've got you covered. If you're new here, hi, my name is Whitney, and I feel like I've been renovating houses my entire life. I grew up doing construction with my dad. I own multiple Airbnbs. I've restored a 150-year-old farmhouse for the last 8 years, so I have a little bit of knowledge that I would like to share with you. This channel is dedicated to all things home, DIY projects, garden content, home product reviews. So if you like videos like that, please give this one a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I would love to have you join me here on this channel. Now let's get started. So you have all of the tools that you're gonna need for your next DIY project. Safety first. I know, what a drag, but it's all fun and games until it's not. So protect yourself. Get yourself a couple of pair of work gloves. They can be the nice expensive ones or they can be the old ones your grandpa had. Work gloves protect your hands from splinters, sharp edges, hot tools, or just when handling rough materials. Get yourself a box of latex gloves. If you're allergic to latex, get the other ones. I always keep a pack of latex gloves in the garage, not only to prevent any sort of skin irritation from products themselves, but to keep your hands clean whenever I am painting, using any sort of adhesives, any caulks or silicones. And definitely whenever I'm using any oil-based stain. When you use latex gloves, you don't have to like scrub oil-based stain off of your hands. You don't have to use mineral spirits to get oil-based paint off your hands. Like you don't have to use harsh chemicals or like really abrasive scrubbing. Just use gloves and then you can prevent all of that in the first place. And a quick side note while we're talking about stain, your staining rags, like the rags that you use to stain your wood with, are actually spontaneously combustible. If you didn't know that, now you know. So you need to lay them out flat and preferably outside until they fully dry out. But if they're crumpled up with wet stain on the inside and you put them in your garage, they could catch fire and then set your house on fire, which would be terrible. So just don't do that. Safety goggles and glasses are a must-have to protect your little peepers. Your eyeballs are so delicate. And when you're doing construction work, there's gonna be dust, there's gonna be debris. If you're cutting wood, there could be like little splinters fly out of the saw. Just protect your eyeballs. I like the wide glasses that have the protective sides as well, but they can get a little bit foggy if you're wearing a dust mask as well. So you can opt for full goggles, and those create like an air seal and they won't get foggy. Wear your dust masks. You're not more like tough if you don't wear a dust mask. You're just causing yourself more harm. Dust masks are great for when you're standing or working with materials that kick up any sort of debris. Seriously, just wear one. I inhaled some dust when I was working on a project about 10 years ago, and I had a severe lung infection for 6 months. Like I couldn't really breathe for half of a year. So just wear your mask, please. Now, if you're working with heavier chemicals or any sort of areas that have like mold, you're gonna want an actual respirator. A dust mask is not gonna be enough. Respirators provide much better protection for your lungs. And if you're working in an environment where you need a respirator, make sure it's well vented. Just like open up those windows, open up those doors, vent out your area as much as possible, but also protect yourself by using a respirator. With these basics, you'll be able to safely tackle your next project. Now let's move on to some basic tools. Let's start with hand tools. These are gonna be the foundation of a good toolkit. Hammers! There are a million different hammers out there. Get yourself one that has a good weight to it. Go to the store, feel what feels right to you. Don't get a puny one. Don't get a puny one. One mistake that I see a lot is people hold the hammer way too far up the handle. You're gonna need to slide that hand on back almost to where you feel like your hand's gonna slide right off the base. Holding it down at the bottom gives you way better control of the hammer, and this will actually put the weight and the force of the hammer into use when you're striking the nail. When you hold it too high up, you're just using the power of your wrist. When you hold it down at the bottom, you actually get a good swing. This is what, kinetic energy? Are there any physicists in the comments? Kinetic energy. It's gonna go through your body, through the handle to the nail, and you'll be able to hit it in much easier. You're gonna wanna get yourself a nice screwdriver set. This is called a flathead, and this is called a Phillips. And these can vary in sizes for different applications. So get a set that has a variety, so you're set for all of your needs. You can also get a mini set like this for tiny little things like removing battery packs from small devices. And then again, get yourself like a nice sturdy set. No dinky ones, no puny ones. You want like the real tool, okay? Get yourself a real tape measure. You see a trend here? No dinky puny tape measures. Get yourself a real tape measure. Uh, honestly, like any tape measure that's like under 25 feet that kind of is like flimsy, I can't do it. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. I can't. I refuse. I refuse. And nobody has ever been impressed by something that is flimsy and not that long. You're gonna wanna build yourself a nice little collection of levels. You can start off with a 2-foot. A 2-foot is great. It's probably all you might need. But depending upon what type of projects you're doing, you might wanna get a 4-foot. And then you can get these little tiny ones. These are called rocket levels. These things are great for like hanging pictures and doing little jobs. You can also get yourself a laser level. I don't have a laser level, but I really want one. I don't know why I don't have one. But get yourself a laser level. They make like really inexpensive ones now. Give you a laser line, and that way if you're doing something that's like, if you're hanging like a chair rail, I need to go get a laser level. I don't know why I don't have one. A speed square. Yes, I know it is in the shape of a triangle, but it's called a speed square. These are great for marking precise angles. These are super useful and a relatively inexpensive item that you can add to your toolkit. Sawhorses. You'll be amazed at how often you will use your sawhorses. You can buy some or you can make your own. These are so important because you can set up a portable working station. You put these up, put a board on it. Now you have a place for assembling your materials or cutting or whatever. Clamps. You're gonna wanna get yourself a collection of clamps. And I don't know why clamps are so expensive. The best place to find clamps is at yard sales and estate sales, because I don't know why, but old men just usually have a collection of clamps, and then you wanna take their collection and add it to your collection. You're gonna wanna get a couple of hand clamps, couple twist clamps. You can use hand or twist clamps to secure your materials together while you're gluing or when you're cutting for added precision. Just get yourself some clamps. Sanding blocks are great, but an orbital sander is better. An orbital sander was my first actually tool I bought for myself. I'm kind of nostalgic about it. And then depending upon whatever project you're doing, do a little bit of research and see what kind of grit you need your sandpaper to be. Grit is kind of like the roughness of the sandpaper. The higher the number, the finer it's gonna be. The lower the number, the rougher it's gonna be. And then if you're getting an orbital sander, there's gonna be holes on the bottom. Make sure you buy the proper sanding pads that are gonna match the holes that are on the bottom of your sander. Utility knives and extra blades. Need I say more? You're gonna use utility knives for everything. So just get a couple. And then every toolkit needs a stud finder. A stud finder is what goes along your wall, and it kind of searches behind the drywall for where a stud is. You can also get the ones that detect electrical as well, which is really nice. And if you're doing a large renovation or any sort of demo, you're gonna wanna have a pry bar or wonder bar. These things are great for prying up tile, for prying up plywood, for taking off sheetrock. They're really good at demo. And then depending upon whatever applications you're removing, you can look into getting I've heard it called a cat's paw or a nail digger. You can get nails out of wood easier. Now we're moving on to cutting tools. We're gonna start small, and then we're gonna move on to the big kahunas. Ready? A miter box. This is a very, very easy, beginner-friendly tool that you can keep if you just have a little apartment and you don't wanna have any power tools, but it'll give you access to cutting wood. So you just secure your material in the miter box, and then you use the saw to follow the guidelines so you can make precision angled cuts. Now, the downside with a miter box is that you can only really do the set angles it has there. If you want to upgrade from a miter box, you can get a miter saw, and the one I have is quite intimidating. You can get smaller ones, but the one I have is capable of doing pretty much everything. You position your wood against the fence. The back part is called the fence. And then you can adjust the angle using the guide. You can adjust the tilt. And then you just lower the blade slowly to make clean cuts. And yes, again, this can be intimidating at first, but just go slow, wear your protective gear, and keep your hands out of harm's way, and you'll be good to go. Jigsaws. These are also a very beginner-friendly tool. The blade cuts away from you. It is very easy to control, very easy to change the blades, and it is great for cutting curves and intricate shapes. Skill saws are great. The best thing about a skill saw is that they are super portable, and they can essentially make the same cuts that a miter saw and a table saw can make. These do require a little bit of skill to get precise cuts, and they do have a potential for kickback if not handled properly. Circular saw is another name for a skill saw. You're not gonna wanna cut any type of delicate materials, like really delicate trim or anything with the circular saw. You can make freehand long straight cuts on plywood, but it's gonna be less precise than if you used a table saw or if you use like a guide track. And then lastly, that brings us to a table saw. Table saws are great for making long linear cuts, like ripping down 1x4s into 1x3s. You can adjust the height of the blade for the thickness of your material. You can also easily cut rabbets, grooves, or slots for projects. You just feed the wood into the blade and then use a push stick for safety. Always, always, always remember the smaller side of what you're shaving off needs to go on the outside of the blade. If you're shaving off like a little sliver and you put that on the inside between the blade and the fence, the little sliver has a potential to shoot back behind you. And I've accidentally done this before and the little piece of wood shot through the drywall. So imagine if like, you know, your kid was standing behind you or something, you know, like always put the little part to the outside. Now we're moving on to drilling and fastening type of tools. Get yourself a drill, a backup battery, and a drill bit set. I really like the Rigid brand for drills because if you register your Rigid product, and I'm pretty sure it's for all Rigid products. I'm not sponsored by Rigid, by the way. I'm pretty sure if you register your Rigid product within 90 days, you get a lifetime warranty on any of the products. Like if your battery goes out, and with any sort of like battery powered tools, your battery is gonna die at some point. Like it won't be able to be recharged. There's gonna be something go wrong with it. You're gonna have to replace that battery. But if you register your product with Rigid within the first 90 days, they'll send you like replacement batteries. That's like free lifetime like servicing, which is super cool. And then speaking of batteries and charging stations, only charge your battery for how long it needs to be fully charged. Once it's fully charged, take that battery off of the charging station and unplug your charging port. You don't want to leave your battery on the charger and plugged in because this can be a fire hazard. Unplug, detach, store them separately. And then get yourself a robust drill bit set because there's nothing worse than starting a project and then you need like a 9/16 spade bit and you don't have it. And then when you're done using that drill bit, put it away. Put it away. Because it's gonna go in your pocket, then you're gonna lose it, and then all of a sudden, you don't have any more 1/8 drill bits. You know? I am way guilty of this. Socket sets. Now, I don't use a socket set very often, but when you need it, you need it. And you can get a simple socket set on Amazon for like 10 bucks. So you select your right socket size and then you attach it to the ratchet. You can use it to tighten or loosen nuts and bolts. So you flip this little toggle thing, which makes it tighten one way, flip it, it'll tighten the other way. So a compressor and nail guns. Now, if you're gonna be doing big home renovation projects, you probably wanna get a compressor and nail guns. But if you're not planning on doing any sort of like large scale projects, you probably don't need one. Compressors hold pressurized air in the tank, and then that pressurized air goes through the hose and it becomes the force behind your nail. Now you can get different types of nail guns. I got these 3 in this kit that came with the compressor. So this is a stapler that can attach to your compressor. This is a brad nailer. Brad nailers are used more for like delicate type of trim, and they use very, very thin nails called brads. Finish nailers are used more for slightly heavier projects like installing baseboard or crown molding. Those use finish nails. And then framing nailers are used for more structural framing. They all work the same. They all get connected to the compressor and then you load the nails into the magazine. And then you depress the tip firmly against the material before you pull the trigger. And then you pop your nail in. And then pro tip, especially if you're using a framing nailer, only pull the trigger once. This goes for all nail guns, but especially a framing nailer because the head of the nails that come out of the framing nailer have more surface area. If you accidentally like pull the trigger twice, the second nail can ricochet off of the head of the previous nail and fly behind you. I saw this happen to a guy on a job site when I was like probably 8 years old. I was working with my dad. I was actually on the roof, like using a framing nailer, like putting shingles on the roof. And this guy was like kapak, 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 going so fast, putting these shingles down that one double hit and it came back and it like hit him in the forehead. And he had a nail like in his head and we had to take him to the hospital. Like ended up being fine, but like that was crazy. And it's okay to be scared of power tools. That's to your benefit, you know, the gift of fear. You don't need to let it debilitate you and be too scared to attempt it. But if you have a little bit of fear in there, knowing that, these saws can cut more than just wood and these nail guns can go into things other than just wood, you're gonna keep yourself safe if you know what these tools are capable of. I'm not saying that you should be scared to attempt these things, but you need to respect the power of these tools. Be smart, learn your tools, protect yourself, and you're gonna be fine. So whether you're setting up your first toolkit or if you're looking to build out a toolkit you already have, I hope you got some information out of this and you got empowered to make some DIY projects this year, because you can do it. You can do it. Don't let the fear of these things stop you from doing that. I believe in you, okay? Now go out there and make something awesome and then tag me over on Instagram or let me know in the comments below what you make. I love to see what you guys do. All right, I will see you on the next one. Bye.